For 1,000 years, kings and queens of Europe had absolute power. But absolute power corrupts absolutely. Greed, revenge, sex, madness, witchcraft, murder. Every monarch had their royal secrets. Everyone envied the power of monarchs and would go to any lengths to gain it. And when occasional accidents of history provided an opening, crafty commoners tried to claim that power. Their attempts always ended in disaster. Danish King Johann Struensee, Russian Tsar Dmitri, and English Prince Perkin Warbeck tried to become kings. They have left no echo in history because they were impostors. These mute walls at the Tower of London hold the secret to the most baffling mystery in British history, a case that remains unsolved after 500 years. These boys, Prince Richard, 9, and his brother Prince Edward, aged 12, are at the heart of the mystery. On June 26, 1483, the bewildered boys, grieving the death of their father less than 3 months before, were ushered into the tower. As the doors slammed shut behind them, they moved out of history and into legend. The boys' uncle, Richard, had been entrusted as their guardian, but Richard himself wanted to be king. Within 3 months, he declared his royal nephews illegitimate and locked them in the tower. He then took the throne for himself as Richard III. The two princes were never seen again, and to this day no one really knows what happened to them. 2 years later, Richard III was killed in battle by the man who became Henry VII. King Henry knew the princes had disappeared, so it was a shock when, 6 years later, a young man appeared in Ireland and declared he was one of the missing boys in the tower, Prince Richard. Could it be one of the boys had somehow escaped? The reappearance of the rightful heir to the English throne was a challenge to the unpopular King Henry VII. The newly resurfaced Richard traveled through Europe, lobbying to reclaim the throne. He found support among King Henry's enemies in England and abroad. The enemies were glad to regard Richard as the lost prince and join his campaign to overthrow Henry's dynasty. He met the lost prince's aunt, who bolstered the young man's credibility by declaring he was indeed her long-lost nephew. In the summer of 1497, the young man who claimed to be a prince and 6,000 men landed in England to claim the crown. But King Henry was ready for them. Richard's ill-prepared rebel army was confronted by Henry's formidable fighting machine. Faced with overwhelming odds, Richard's nerve broke and his army fled in disarray. The young claimant was quickly captured. Unmasked as an impostor, scared and alone, the pretender wrote to his mother.
My mother, fate has dealt me such a hand that I find myself in the power of the King of England. I beg you to send me some money that I may receive kinder treatment from my captors.
The money failed to help, and after some persuasion by his guards, the young man told the true story of how Henry's enemies had coached him to masquerade as the lost prince.
First, let it be known that I was born in the town of Tournai in Flanders, and my name is Perkin Warbeck. And they made me to learn English and taught me what I should do and say. And after this, they called me Duke of York. And thence I went into France, into Ireland, and from Ireland into Scotland, and so into England.
After Warbeck admitted he was an impostor, King Henry wanted to minimize this threat to his authority and treated him lightly. The impostor was pardoned and employed as a courtier, traveling everywhere with the king so he could be carefully watched. But it was not long before Warbeck tried to escape. He was quickly recaptured, and the king decided to keep a closer eye on the erratic impostor. Warbeck was locked up in the Tower of London, just like the real prince he had pretended to be. This time, Warbeck was not treated well by his captors and tried to escape again. The king finally lost his patience with the impostor and hanged Warbeck in 1499. No one else ever came forward again to claim he was one of the surviving boy princes. What happened to the real princes remained a mystery. Then, in 1674, a builder made a horrific discovery beneath a stairwell in the Tower of London: the crushed bones of 2 young boys. It appeared the princes were indeed murdered in the tower, but 500 years later, who killed them remains a controversy.